ask you not to call them referendums, but to say so-called referendums or sham referendums. But sure, it's not any referendums. It's like, it's like a referendum with the question, are you not against to join Russia? And the answer is yes, I am not against. The second answer is no, I am not against. So it's like this, and that is not a referendum at all. It's clear for everybody. It's a kind of a desperate gesture from Putin because he wants to cover his military, like huge military failure near Kharkiv, which is a historical one, like a kind of a Tsushima defeat of Russian army and some kind of this, with this kind of a political success about some new lands that he wants to claim Russian. That's what's going on. Also, it is the way to try to make West and Ukraine and West to be afraid of him, and that he will say this is attack on Russia, like you already said. So, but this is a gesture of desperation because he's losing the war, and now he's trying to find and to explain in some way that he's not losing the war, and that's why he's doing this.
Well, indeed, even in two of the four areas which are being posed these questions, in Zaporizhzhia and Donetsk, Russia controls very little of the territory. Obviously, here in the UK, we look at an awful lot of what's happening there through Western eyes. And one of the things that we've looked at is why would you do this? And one of the things that could happen is if it is declared under these so-called referenda that people want to be Russian or whatever, they could say that that is now Russian territory, and the West can't supply weapons. You can't do that. But my worry is, well, my suggestion is that the West aren't particularly worried by saber rattling by Russia of conventional force, because if Ukraine is beating Russia back, then NATO certainly would fancy itself if he wanted to try and open up another front.
It can be like this, but what I want to, what is my message now, and I think this is extremely important, is let's speak about not about these referendums, but about Russian mobilization. And he's saying about 300,000 people, but in reality, nobody knows. They are lying all the time. So they would conscript and mobilize so many people how they can. So if they would be able to mobilize 500,000 or 1 million or 2 million people, they will do it. And for sure, that cannot change the result of the war, but it can prolong the war and a lot of casualties, a lot of blood. So I think that we now have a unique window of opportunity. It was like in the end of March. If Ukraine would have in March all weaponry that we have today, with HIMARSes, with howitzers and everything else, we would finish everything in spring, believe me. Because Russian troops they failed in their blitzkrieg, they were retreating from Kiev and in northern Ukraine, they were disorganized. But we lost the moment, and because we didn't have enough weaponry. Yeah, free world. And then they regrouped, replenished, refreshed, and started another kind of war, like First World War, trench war. And they were quite successful for several months in this. Now they started to lose again, and they're trying to change. And that is the moment. If we would receive now really powerful weaponry and in big numbers, I'm speaking about long-range missiles to HIMARSes, I'm speaking about armor, finally, because we didn't receive any Western tank for the moment, that will be a possibility for Ukraine to defeat Russia. And several times, some more operations like Kharkiv. And I think that Putin's regime will not survive, would not survive two more defeats. So these new mobilized people could not even arrive because they will arrive in 3 months. So we have 3 months to do it. If we will do it, the war can be finished now, and that will be the best for the whole planet.
Well, I'm interested in what you say about long-range, more powerful weaponry, and particularly about armour. What is your response to the German government position that they won't give you any tanks because it would take too long to train Ukrainian personnel to be able to use them?
Just lie. Ukrainian personnel, Ukrainian crews ask all American generals are saying, and I met them, that Ukrainians are the best whom they saw in the question of training on new weaponry. And it's not because Ukrainians are like the smartest people in the world. No, it's because our motivation is the biggest, because we are fighting for our land, and this for us existential. So that is not true. We would absolutely be very quickly trained. We were very quickly trained for HIMARSes. We were very quickly trained for new howitzers, and we using it extremely effective. So that's what's said by the German government, unfortunately, is not true. And I'm very much disappointed with their position. And they're just watching why not, instead of watching how to do yes. So that's why.
Okay, in terms of some of the pictures we've been seeing coming out of Russia, and they are unverified, but there has been a number of videos that have been posted of people trying to not be conscripted, of people trying to leave the country. We've seen the rise in airline prices. Um, what is your position? Are you worried that 300,000, 400,000, 500,000 new conscripts could make a big difference in the war in Ukraine? Or do you believe that having people that don't want to be there can help further reduce morale and clear lines of instruction on the front line of the Russian military?
I partly already answered this question. What I can add is that, first of all, I want to tell you that watch Putin tried to scare the West, and Ukraine, but he scared his own people, and they're now running out from the country. I mean, that is the result of Putin's regime. That Russians are running away from Russia. That is, I mean, unbelievable. And but speaking about where it will lead us, you know, Russian army and Russian state and Russian army is like a dinosaurus, a huge, massive body with a tiny head and very tiny brains. And what is Putin is doing now? He's increasing the body. Will it change anything? Yes, it can. I mean, this body is big, and falling it can, make some problems. But the problem of Russian army is not in the size of the body. The problem is that it is vertical. The generals are drunk and corrupted. The officers has no initiative. Putin is not a strategic genius how he thinks about himself. That is their problem, and nothing of these problems will be fixed by mobilization. So I don't believe that can change the result of the war, but for sure that will mean new dozens of thousands of killed people, both Ukrainians and Russians. That's why I'm saying that we have now a great moment to finish everything before they will start to arrive.